Good morning, guys! So today we're gonna go foraging, and I've never done foraging before. I'm saying foraging. Foraging. I'm saying it right? We're gonna learn together. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited!
Yeah, we're going hunting. Touch you just like my hands. Hi! No!
Really deep.
Alright, listen, I'm not kidding. We're stopping right here. Okay, and we're just gonna hike from here.
Off-roading!
Alright, so.
We're off-roading. We're here!
Oh, I thought I was gonna die.
Only on Sundays. These are like the best rules ever. Good, did it tell you? Deer tick and wood tick. It's so pretty.
Is that what you had given me that one time?
So right now we're waiting for the forager to come, and we're just exploring. We're foraging ourselves. With the guys over there. And there's onions. It smells really good, actually.
It's really important to understand ethics of foraging as well as safety. So these are big issues, and they could, you know, it can take a long time to really get the understanding of like where is safe as far as ecosystems or habitats. These represent really succulent leaves. They are a little bitter. You notice here that these flowers haven't opened yet. What happens is when a plant flowers, it'll just be a little more bitter on the leaves, right? So if you want it to be more succulent, usually young spring greens are going to be generally less bitter and less astringent, less intense of a flavor. Now you know, as far as understanding, like, okay, if a flavor is more intense, you dilute it better or you embellish it, right? You don't just be like, okay, here's a whole bowl of raw romaine lettuce. Enjoy, right? And so the hardest part is to translate this into like a dish or an actual product, right? But so you can chop these up and use these in a salad, in stir fry, in anything that you could possibly use, any kind of greens that you would get in the store.
Trying out the dandelion.
Andrew Wall about bitter, and he basically points out
I like
that
it.
chicory is actually rounded and hairy. Then from there, there's many other kinds of plants that have basically a toothed leaf, right, which are in different families, different qualities, different properties. So it's always good to check that and notice what I mean by round is like a cross section. Do you see that? Circle with white milky sap. I guess nobody could just rhyme. So it's like, what is the little limerick? Sedges have edges, right, because the leaf is like that. Rushes are round, and grasses have asses.
I didn't forget that.
Yeah, I guess.
What are you talking about? Like the sheath on the outside?
You know
and
how this leaf actually kind of curves out and juts out?
Yeah.
That's the ass.
Oh,
You're
that makes
all
no
staring
sense
at the
to me, but
grass's
okay.
ass. Does anyone know like the property of okra?
Yeah.
So you know how that's called mucilaginous, right?
Right.
And that's really good for tonifying and cleansing the digestive tract, as well as like, you know, a great remedy for things like constipation. And so I think it's 30% of Americans poop once a week.
Ew.
Can you imagine?
Once a
that?
week.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That was my little sister for a while, but now she's back to normal.
Yeah. So
Thanks for
From
sharing
not
that.
enough fiber?
well, from not enough fiber and from not
Processed
enough
foods, yeah.
soothing foods in their diet. So also when you taste
tastes
it,
good.
use this as an identifying factor towards understanding it when you're not here.
I like those. These are good. Violet greens?
Yeah, violet greens.
Violet greens, that's awesome.
Good.
The bottom petal has this beautiful kind of runway. You see that in the bottom? So that's a very important identifying factor also, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 petals. Now these violet flowers are also a beautiful garnish, can be added into a salad, are also edible. So the violet flowers and leaves are delicious and edible.
I was gonna go find my own. Already get it
Yeah,
yet?
get it.
They're totally beautiful. And,
Leave me one.
You know, and
Violets.
well, again, it's like, so I was taking 30%.
Checking out the red bud trees. Red bud.
Red bud?
Red bud. Red bud.
So you can see that one's getting a little less sun. It's not as open, right? But this one is in a perfect phase, right? So this is the redbud tree or the Judas tree. And This is planted in a lot of landscaped areas. Like it's a favorite for landscapers. So it's actually in the pea family.
Huh.
I'd imagine some.
It's good.
These are
Yeah.
great.
They're better, I think.
Talking about how they taste like
So imagine
sugar snap
pea
peas.
dishes. Like there's not too many
I really like this.
exclusive pea dishes, right?
So good.
Yeah. So the first thing I think, right, is like split pea soup, right?
I'm still like nibbling on them. I see them like everywhere, and I didn't know that you could eat them.
2 ears or wings, right? So every flower in the pea family has this. So that's the Legumiaceae, or the Legume family. There are other plants that look similar to this. This one is very unique because it's almost extremely triangle shaped. Buttercup, right? So you can see on the underside, and maybe we'll find one of my favorite spices, and we'll compare it because it looks somewhat similar.
Look, they're flowering. I'm picking out some red buds. Yeah, and it has like everything on it.
So if you're in a diluted
very
starvation
sticky.
state, I think that's just because of all the rain.
Oh.
So this is great. I mean, this with eggs and stuff is incredible. You just
Yeah, it smells like
saute
a
it.
chive.
Yep, it is. It
Wild
is.
onions.
If anyone wants a Ziploc, I have some.
Thought you
Dig it
felt
out.
the pain of the shovel going. into the earth.
It's like, oh, I've been shot.
That's not
Stabbed.
something I've talked about, but we will talk about it, or we can talk about.
Cool shovel though.
Yeah, these are really handy. This is a little camping shovel.
We'll see.
But you're saying the dirt is edible too, huh?
Well, the funny thing is the dirt is consumable, but not edible.
That's cool.
Oh, neat.
In the sense that, you know, dirt is not pleasant to eat,
Not
but it
bad.
is
Neat
very
dirt don't hurt.
important to consume.
It looks like an oyster mushroom, kind of.
Similar, but no gills.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Oyster mushrooms have gills.
from like a log, right?
Yeah, that's from a birch tree.
that's
Usually white
cool.
birch. It's called the birch polypore. Utsi, the primitive human that was found in France.
Mm-hmm.
Ice cap thawed. And she had a whole first aid kit, including this mushroom. Anti-parasitic.
Would you make a
Antiviral,
So-
antibacterial.
Yep. Also, so they basically
basically
work
an
with
antibiotic.
viral. Yes, except plants are smarter than being antibiotic, which means anti-life, and they are extremely invested in the process of evolution, and they need viruses and bacteria to stimulate them. This is a sheath. This is a very important feature and characteristic of this specific plant. We haven't said bitter dock, right? Rumex obtusifolia, which means large-leafed rumex, right? There's also another plant that's in this same genus, which is Rumex crispus, which is actually a better green to eat. It's more sour. When these plants grow up, they are very bitter, right? They actually contain bitter compounds that really start to show themselves. This plant, though, in this phase is totally an edible green. If you eat it right now, it tastes very bitter. But once you cook it, it's really nice. It's almost like, you know, if you wrapped something with like a slimy plant, like how they do with, I guess, stuffed cabbage or anything like that. You can do the same thing with these leaves. They get huge. Getting into mixed drinks, this is getting into teas, this is getting into mint flavoring. Now, this is a general, so mint is not peppermint and spearmint, despite what people think, right? So before you do anything, just check the stem of this plant. So in order to identify a mint, you need 3 characteristics, right? Just like the onion. So if you all take one in your hand and you stare at it closely. So notice the stem, and this is a really interesting aspect of all mints across the world.
This is a mint.
Do you see the stem?
Uh-huh.
Not that it's hairy, but maybe roll it around in your fingers.
Square.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a very unique aspect. Now that does not mean that all square-stemmed plants are mints. There's one characteristic, right? The other characteristics are, if you look from afar, you see how it has leaves in the shape of north-south, right? And then east-west.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And north-south, east-west, right? So that's called opposite leaves. So that's actually a very important characteristic in the plant world. But you just look at it as your face. So all mint family plants have bilaterally symmetrical flowers, opposite leaves, and square stems. They also smell like a mint, but this is where you're going to get totally thrown off. So take a
Does it?
leaf, right, and then smush it in your fingers and smell it.
Wow.
Now notice, it doesn't smell like peppermint.
No, it doesn't.
Spearmint, right? But it does smell like a mint. You can get flavors out of certain plants, and if you make a decoction, which is an infusion, is like a lighter tea. A decoction is more like a stew, right? You never want to boil usually plant parts like this. This has, for example, vitamin C in it, which if you boil, it goes away, right? It'll just dissipate. You can see this isn't incredibly fresh, right? So you can see how much more green they are there. But if you can take a piece and just break it up in your hands and just smell it. Smell it good, like for like, you know, a couple seconds at least, and just inhale it deeply and see what happens in your body. Which is actually
pine.
fir trees, right?
Yeah.
So most of white people on ships came here, and they totally slayed the native populations, and then they had the right to call certain plants that they brought over as invasive. So concrete, you know, townhouses and people are much more invasive than any plant. Plants generally don't walk around unless maybe, you know, you're on some sort of substance and a lot of it in order to see plants walking around. Succulent top. Now this is the time and the season for this version of this plant, right? It won't always be this way. But one of the important characteristics is that if you can see one that hasn't opened yet, now what's that look like to you?
Concrete rock.
Alright, so you see those buds there? So that's before and after. So has anyone ever seen broccoli accidentally go to flower?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just like that, right?
No.
So broccoli is buds of flowers. A
Look,
little
it's
bit
so
more
pretty.
danger towards like infants and raw milk.
Right.
My
You
bad.
know, compromising immune systems.
I like how everyone is just like munching and eating off the ground. It's so cool. Look what Keith found. So cool.
You can eat pine nuts from pine cones, but on the East Coast they're very small.
It's really
Very
good.
familiar flavor.
Yeah, that's exactly what the tannins
Pine cone.
are
Yep,
in wine.
absolutely. So makes perfect sense.
We're done foraging! Yay. So learned some awesome stuff today.
You guys want to take
Ate
pictures?
some
of the
random
blood?
things.
Yes.
We didn't even leave the parking lot, which is like awesome thing. Like, and Keith is smiling at me. I could see the judgment in his eyes that I'm talking to a camera.